Another awesome trading week last week. Just want to give a shout out to some of the members who had a great trading week as well. Let's start looking at this week's Forex Forecast. Starting things off with the US dollar index, the past week the banks added 960 long contracts and they also added 1,270 short contracts. Doing a top-down approach here, starting with the weekly chart, which is what I like to do with these forecasts. You can see here we clearly have had a lot of momentum in the DXY late, just the past month, really, couple months. And with that being said, we still have profit margin to supply at about 110. I've been saying this the past couple weeks now, so I do apologize if you've heard me say that a few times now, but it is true. And we are at about the halfway point between demand and supply. So that makes us have to go down to the lower time frames to see what's really taking place. So if we go down to the daily chart, I'm pretty sure I talked about this last week as well. We actually removed this daily demand zone, which definitely left me not too puzzled. Usually the removal of a daily demand zone would be definitely a sign of some downward signs ahead. But in this instance, it's really a healthy thing, because if you just look, if we zoom out in the daily chart, you can see that we are very, very overextended on just looking at the daily chart. Even the weekly chart shows it as well. But as I always say to you guys and to the members as well, just because we are overextended like this does not mean that we are due for a pullback. Essentially, yes, okay, we are due for a bigger pullback, something like this, but that does not mean that it has to take place whatsoever. But when this daily zone was removed, I immediately had to go down to the 4-hour chart to see what was taking place there. If you look in the 4-hour chart, the price action was actually very, very clear. We had demand zones being respected, pushing up, very, very nice looking upward trend line here. And then all of a sudden, we actually broke the downward trend line and this demand zone that we had already seen a reaction off of. So that was a very, very bearish sign, in my opinion, on the 4-hour chart. And that actually left us with this demand zone down here at about 105.798. If you look at this yellow box right here, this essentially indicates the trading of the last week on the 4-hour chart. And if you notice, not a lot has really gone on. This isn't really my favorite time to be trading. I much prefer to be trading, in trends like this, or when price is inside of some sort of demand zone, like back here. But when price is kind of just sitting in the middle here, it's not at demand, it's not really at any supply, there's really no trend, it's really, really difficult to trade. I just kind of wanted to point that out by highlighting just, this is last week's trading, guys, and it's been, really whippy, a lot of wicks. So just want to let you guys know it's been very, very difficult to be trading. With that being said, how do we go from here? Well, like I said last week, it really all depends around this 4-hour demand zone. If we push down to it, I think we could see some sort of reaction off of it, just based on how strong of a demand zone it is. But like I said, on the daily chart in the dollar, we were kind of somewhat, quote unquote, due for that bigger pullback. Doesn't mean we're going to get it. That's why the only way I'm going to say we're going to get that deeper pullback is if we remove this low. And if we remove that low and this demand, that would give us that 4-hour downtrend, and that would be our sign that we're going to get that bigger pullback on the daily chart looking at the dollar. So it's really all going to revolve around this 4-hour demand at 105.79 on the DXY to see if we're either going to react off of it to the upside, push up, break this high, create a 4-hour uptrend, or push down, break the demand, break the low, and create a 4-hour downtrend. If we create a 4-hour uptrend, in my opinion, I think that that daily pullback we saw was just a temporary pullback, and if we create a downtrend, then I think we're going to be seeing prices go a lot lower, at least regarding to the daily chart. On to the forecast for the Euro US dollar. The past week the banks added 6,791 longs, and they also got rid of 87 short contracts. Starting off with the 4-hour chart here, you can see that we clearly reacted off of this 4-hour area of demand. If you guys remember last week, I actually talked about this 4-hour area of demand. I personally did think that this zone was going to actually be removed, just kind of based on, just my overall thinking process. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I did think it was going to be removed. But I also said, just because I think it's going to be removed doesn't mean we should just be shorting right away, right? I always try to tell people you want to wait to see evidence of the removal first before we just get in short, and that would have prevented, some loss here if you were looking to get in short, and obviously a great move off of demand. I also said last week, I don't think this is going to be, responsible for a huge move, but obviously this is just the opposite of the DXY. So we're gonna have to see what happens around this selling area and that high, and then obviously the opposite, we just need to see what happens around this demand if we pull back down to it. But so far this 4-hour demand is holding, so essentially what that means is 4-hour demand is in control, which means as long as this demand zone is in control, we could be looking for day trading longs to the upside on like a 15-minute chart or a 5-minute chart, depending on what your schedule is like. So really, day trading longs I think are still fine. But remember, we are coming up to that some sort of that supply on the 4-hour chart, so we definitely need to be trading with caution here on the euro. And if we continue to pull up, if you look at the daily chart, there's really not a lot of supply that could stop price. If we continue to go up, I don't really see anything over here that could really push price down. Now we do have the supply up here, but it is tested at 1.07. So if we do break that high on the 4-hour chart and continue to go up, I think we have a lot of profit margin at least to this supply at 1.07. So that's what makes me a little bit excited. If we can, going back to the 4-hour chart, if we can continue, hopefully see this 4-hour demand hold. Hopefully some of you guys actually got a trade off of it from last week, but hopefully we can push up, break that high, create that 4-hour uptrend, and then at that point it's even better for day trading longs with a clear profit target on the daily chart. So that's what I'm looking at here on the Euro US dollar. On to the forecast for gold. The past week, the banks added 11,080 long contracts and they got rid of 30,225 short contracts. Looking at the chart of gold here, remember this is a weekly chart. Definitely need to do a top-down analysis here of gold. Remember, we have weekly demand that is in control, and in my opinion, that is why we have seen gold push up. Yes, I get that some economic data has come out that could be responsible for pushing the price of gold up. The stuff overseas, I'm not going to get into detail, but at the end of the day, we have seen a very, very strong rise up in gold. Continuing with the top-down approach here on the daily chart, I talked last week. I actually said I was expecting price to push up, break out, create demand, essentially create demand zones here, and we basically did just that. We essentially broke the downward trend line, leaving us with daily demand at 1929. So in my opinion, if we do get the pullback down to this daily demand zone like this could be a great area to look for our swing trading longs, day trading longs all the way. We're going to go down to a lower time frame here in a second, but at the end of the day, this is a daily confirmation coming off of a weekly demand zone. So this is a pretty powerful demand zone in my opinion. Yes, it is possible that we push down and break down to this demand zone. That'll be for another discussion, but in the meantime, this is the nearest daily demand zone. We have really seen no evidence of price pulling back to that just yet, but I just kind of wanted to give a bigger idea here of what's taking place on the higher time frames. So now, if we come down and we look at the 4-hour chart, I mean, things are looking pretty good. We have a pretty clean 4-hour uptrend in my opinion. I'm going to indicate that by the upward arrow. And with that being said, we have some 4-hour demand zones down below at 1928. We could look for longs off of those demand zones right there. That's pretty much all I'm seeing as far as the 4-hour chart goes on gold. But at the end of the day, very, very bullish. You can see beautiful 1-hour uptrend. We had nice 1-hour zones holding perfectly along the way up. We actually had a nice trade off of this 1-hour zone right here to the upside. This is a huge move. This is a zone I didn't really call it out in the market breakdown videos, but I did point it out somewhat as price was already reacting off of it. But just a beautiful move up. That is the power of supply and demand, guys. So that being said as well, 1-hour uptrend. So as long as we have this 1-hour uptrend, it's longs all the way on day trading time frames. And if we break this 1-hour uptrend, that would be a sign that we're going to be pulling back to at least some of these demand zones down here. We can then look for longs, but we want to be mostly focusing on the 4-hour chart if we do break these this 1 hour uptrend. So really just looking for this 1 hour upward trend line to hold, to continue to look for longs on day trading timeframes. But I see a lot of setups coming here in gold throughout the next couple weeks. And if you want to follow me for some of those setups and much more, check it out. Check out the Diamond membership. You can get my daily market breakdown videos to follow me throughout the week, because look guys, I only do these forecasts every Friday or every Saturday. And there's a lot of setups that happen throughout the week. That's why I do the daily market breakdown videos. We have video lessons, COT Report Spreadsheets, and much more. Private Discord group. Would be happy to see you guys join the team. Looking for all serious traders. We also have lifetime access available as well. So be happy to see you guys join the team and see some. On to the forecast for the USDJPY. The past week, the banks got rid of 459 longs, and they also got rid of 3,641 short contracts. Now, I'm going to be straight up honest with you guys here. On the USDN, there really hasn't been a lot going on. If we just look at my 4-chart layout here, things look all right, at least on the higher time frame. You know, we do have some sort of supply and control. On the daily chart here, we have a pretty nice looking daily uptrend. So that's something that the USD yen has going for it. But if you just look over here on the 4-hour chart, look at the wicks here. It's just very choppy, not very clear. We haven't quite broken this high yet, so essentially we're just going sideways right now, and it's just not very clear what to do. If you just look at the daily chart here, we have a very nice looking daily uptrend. So in my opinion, it's somewhat clear what to do. We have to look for longs based on this daily trend, but I'm just really not seeing anything. If we go to a 1-hour chart too, the wicks become even more clear. It's like, what is going on here? It's just, I mean, it was somewhat clear down here. We had a nice little demand zone at 148.74, and we almost pushed down into it here with this massive, insane wick. But at the end of the day, it's just been so choppy, so wicky. We do essentially have a 1-hour uptrend, so I think day trading longs are okay. But like, there's really no way for me to draw a trend line here at anything. I don't want to. It's just so wicky. So I'm really just looking for some clean price action. What I'm hoping is we can get, you know, some sort of clean candles pushing out of here to the upside, you know, creating some sort of basing demand zone along the way instead of this choppy price action. So really nothing to report here on the USDN. I know that you guys might be upset, but look, I'm very honest with you guys. You know, and I'm not just going to say there's a setup here when there's not. So I'm just basically taking this time in the USDN to give you guys a little lesson on, if you see a chart that looks like this and it's not clear and you don't know what's going on, and it's very choppy and wicky, it's fine to continue to move on. And let's say, and that's why you want to trade multiple different pairs, right guys? So yes, there are some people who only trade one pair, but they probably have the discipline and the mental ability to move on that day and say, oh, I'm not going to trade this day. Look at this horrible price action. I don't like this. I'm going to move on. I'm going to wait for tomorrow to trade. Where other rookie traders might not have that ability, and they try to just force trades in this choppy price action. So I'm really not seeing anything clear here in the USDN. If I really had to say anything, since we do have essentially a 1-hour uptrend and a daily uptrend, it is longs all the way. But again, there's really nothing clear. So in my opinion, we need to look for other trading setups. On to the forecast for the GBPUSD, the British pound. The past week, the banks got rid of 753 longs, and they also added 408 short contracts. Looking at a weekly chart here of the pound, just wanted to point out that, you know, if we do continue to see downward pressure on the lower time frames, we do have profit margin down to at least 1.16. Just looking at the weekly chart according to, you know, the supply and demand methodology. Yes, of course, we could turn around at any point, but this is kind of how I view things. You know, we like to trade from supply to demand. We broke demand. Now we are looking for the nearest demand. So the profit margin from supply up here was essentially to this demand zone down here. Now we broke that demand. We then looked to this demand zone. So now the profit margin was from here down to here. We have essentially filled this gap at least 25% of the way. So we are essentially looking for that, the rest of that move down. And how do we know if we want to continue to look for shorts? Well, we really got to be on, you know, the lower time frames. We did have a pretty nice 4-hour downtrend at this point here. We actually broke out of that 4-hour downtrend, leaving us with this 4-hour demand. But we actually recently broke this demand the past week, leaving us with supply, and that is currently being respected. So what I'm looking for here now in the pound, I'm personally not looking for trades right now. If we do pull back up to this 4-hour supply up above at 1.23, that definitely could be an area where we look for potential short trades, maybe on lower time frames using a confirmation entry. Or if we break this low down here on the 4-hour chart down there, that would actually give us, a 4-hour downward trend line like this, which would be the continuation of the 4-hour downtrend. So all of that profit margin stuff I said in the weekly chart, it all really matters around this 4-hour chart, because look, if we push up, break the high, that would be a 4-hour uptrend, and then at that point, shorts are a little bit risky unless you look for shorts in the supply that I just pointed out. But shorts definitely become a little bit risky at that point because we have a 4-hour uptrend. That's why I said we need to look for confirmation in the zone, not just really a set and forget. So just wanted to also point that out there. If we do break the high here, that could be a sign that maybe we're not actually going to fill the rest of that profit margin that I pointed out on the weekly chart here. So as far as the pound goes, really just going to rely on this 4-hour chart for now, really just looking to see that low removed. So then that would be a sign that we can continue to look for shorts and fill out that profit margin on the weekly chart. On to the USDCAD, the past week the banks added 3,348 longs and they also added 1,298 shorts. Just want to again look at the weekly chart here. A lot of sideways action. I mean, it's just very, very confusing. Not a lot to see off of this weekly chart on the USDCAD. If you look at a daily chart here, remember we had a very strong daily uptrend. Yes, the daily supply was in control, but it's very tested. That's why I'm pretty much kind of ignoring the supply at this point. So we pretty much are just going with this daily uptrend here on the USDCAD. And if you look here on the 4-hour chart, we had a 4-hour demand zone in control. Pointed this zone out a couple weeks ago. So far, beautiful move off of the zone. But wanted to point out this beautiful beautiful day trade we caught off of this 1-hour demand zone here. So price was pushing up. Remember, we had a daily uptrend, and then we found this little 1-hour zone here. And as this 1-hour zone came in control, we were pushing out of it, and I went down to a 5-minute chart in the daily market breakdown video, and we found this beautiful 5-minute demand zone set up here. Basically zero drawdown. Very nice reaction off the zone. 3-to-1 trade right there. Boom. Couldn't quite get the 5-to-1, but it is what it is. Sometimes you can't always get the max take profit that you want, but that's just the reality sometimes, guys. But at the end of the day, that was a day trade there off the 1-hour chart. And as far as the USDCAD goes now, I think we could still continue to look for longs, just kind of just zooming out here and just seeing the overall picture. But the problem is in the 1-hour chart, we've kind of lost momentum here. Yes, this 1-hour zone held for a bit, but it actually left us with this 1-hour supply 1.37. So now we pretty much need to see this supply removed and this high removed. Then we would have a 1-hour uptrend, and then day trading longs are okay again. But in the meantime, okay, if you think we're going to go lower, we do have 1-hour supply control. You could be looking for day trade shorts off of this supply zone, just like we kind of did right here, but instead of longs, looking for shorts off the 1-hour supply. You could definitely play that, but with the trend kind of being up, it's not the best play in my opinion. We'd actually, in my opinion, with the daily trend being up as well, we kind of would rather just wait for, like I said, this high to be removed, this supply to be removed, and continue to look for longs. But at the end of the day, supply is in control. We could definitely kind of use this supply zone to look for scalps to the short side. On to the forecast for the Aussie US dollar. The past week, the banks got rid of 262 longs, and they also added 3,900 short positions. Now, looking at the daily chart here, remember the overall trend is down. Not a huge fan of this price action, but at the end of the day, the overall trend is down on the daily chart. Just wanted to point that out. But with that being said, we have a weekly/monthly demand zone in control. Looking at the weekly chart here, so it is a little confusing, right? We could see price push up, but so far this demand is being tested pretty deep, basically 75% of the way in of the overall monthly demand zone. So in my opinion, not looking too strong, definitely looking weak. I think shorts are okay. On this 4-hour chart, we do actually have a 4-hour downtrend. It's a debatable downtrend. I'm actually going to remove it right now because it's kind of debatable. Based on my rules, it is essentially a downtrend, but it's just kind of going sideways, so it's really not super clear. We do have a supply level up here at 0.64. If we do push up to that supply, we could see some sort of move off of that. But at the end of the day, since I think we are going to continue to go down, we have clear profit margin down to this demand zone on the 4-hour chart at 0.62. So whether we pull up to here or not, we could really just be trading down to this demand zone at 0.62 on day trading timeframes. Now be careful, we are kind of at the low here, so we kind of want to see some sort of break of this low, maybe a pullback up to a supply level on a day trading time frame, and then a trade to the downside, something like that. So either this situation down to demand here, or if we pull back up to this supply zone here, we could then look for day trading shorts off of that supply up there. And if we end up actually breaking the supply and the high, then at that point the whole analysis will have changed, and that'll be for a different discussion. On to the forecast for the USDCHF, the Swiss franc. The past week the banks got rid of 303 longs, and they also got rid of 1,306 short contracts. Now looking at the daily chart here, you can see we had a pretty nice move up, followed by a pretty nice move down. We have seen not only one, but two demand zones being removed, and our clear profit margin is to this next demand zone at 0.88. Just like when we were up here, our profit margin was down to this demand zone, and then when this demand zone was removed, our profit margin was down to this demand zone. Our profit margin is now from this demand zone down to this demand zone. So whether we pull back up to this daily supply where we can then look for a potential short trade first, or if we continue to trade down low from here, that'll be for a different discussion. But we have profit margin to the downside at 0.88, and so far we have seen no evidence of price slowing down. If you look at a 4-hour time frame, we have a very clean 4-hour downtrend. If we go to a 1-hour chart, we have a very clean 1-hour downtrend. So if we do pull back up to this 1-hour supply at 0.896, this could be an area where you look for day trading shorts. Really anywhere in this general area is okay to look for day trading shorts. And when I say day trading, that means entering on a 1-minute time frame, obviously, all the way up to even a 15-minute time frame for day trades. So that's what I'm talking about when I'm saying looking for day trading shorts. So and if we actually break this 1-hour area of supply in the 1-hour downtrend, that would be the sign, going back to the daily chart, that would be the sign that we would actually be pulling back up to this daily supply. So if you want to know where price is going according to the daily chart, we really just have to be focusing on the 1-hour chart. So as long as we have this 1-hour downtrend, we're probably going down to daily demand. And if we break this 1-hour downtrend, that's the first sign we need to say, hey, maybe we're actually pulling back up to this daily supply. So that is my analysis on the USD Swiss. Remember, guys, if you have any questions about anything I am saying, please just let me know in the comments down below. I respond to every comment that I get. Last but not least, we are on to the forecast for crude oil. Past week, the banks got rid of 23,981 long contracts, and they also got rid of 8,395 short contracts. Starting off with the daily chart here. Remember, last couple weeks, I did point out this daily demand zone. You can go back, watch the last couple forecasts, check out that call out. Beautiful move off of that zone. And I said we had clear profit margin from demand to supply. And we actually, we reacted off the supply a bit. Actually ended up breaking through the supply this past week. Not too surprised, kind of based on my based on my multiple sequence analysis. I was actually expecting this daily supply zone to be removed. So in my opinion, that is a very, very bullish sign. And if you remember on the weekly chart, we actually are inside of weekly supply, which could be a sign, maybe we shouldn't be looking for longs. But according to my according to my multiple sequence analysis, I'm actually expecting this weekly supply to be removed as well. And that's why we were continuing to look for longs in oil as a group. So I am now expecting this supply to be taken out maybe in the next 3 weeks, in the next 2 weeks. I think we will have a pretty strong push up in my opinion, and then maybe followed by another push up. We could break it next week. I don't really want to make that call out, but to me, it's all signs are pointing to the upside here on oil. I really see no reason to be shorting. If you look at a 1-hour time frame, we have a beautiful 1-hour uptrend. So it's day trading longs all the way. We have kind of seen a pullback, so we got to be cautious with that. We kind of want to wait for the high to be removed again before looking for longs on day trading time frames. Or if we pull back, if we continue to pull back down to this 4-hour demand level at 88.38, we could look for day trading longs inside of that 4-hour demand zone as well on oil. But at the end of the day, I am pretty bullish on crude oil. So it is definitely longs all the way. And a reminder, just want to remind you guys again, check out that live webinar and replay if you haven't watched yet. And as always, guys, take care. And if you guys want to watch the full-length forecast with all the other markets, make sure to subscribe to the channel membership to get access.